Hey guys, thanks for checking out Quick Sessions Podcast. My name is Garrett Terrio, and I just recorded a 30-minute podcast and there was this massive echo, so I'm going to redo it. I'm very excited about that. But anyway, this whole thing, I was with a client yesterday who's going through a little bit of a plateau, and I've had buddies, workout partners that have gone through plateaus as well. And while I am not the authority on all things breaking plateaus, I always did pretty good with them. I never really hit huge plateaus just because in my nature, I'm quick to switch things up. I am never just happy's not the word. I'm never just so comfortable in one type of exercise or one rep range or anything like that to where I'm just anti-change. Because that's how you get through plateaus ultimately. I'm going to rattle off a few things, but ultimately changing the routine is how you break through it. Not giving up the routine, just changing it for a little bit. Because I have people I train who, no matter what, they're just, I get my best work between 8 and 12. Okay, maybe. There's some predisposition with certain genetics that will just succeed at different rep ranges. Now, strength is strength. A stronger person is going to be able to do 20 reps stronger than someone who's not as strong. But as far as muscular endurance goes, some people will be predisposed. Normally, so if I just look at someone, they're tall, long, not a ton of body fat, I'm going to assume they're going to be better with higher reps. Short, stocky guy, you're going to assume they're better with lower reps. It's a stereotype. It's not across the board, but it's definitely a safe bet. So I have a friend named Scott. He's pretty strong. But he says, I get my best work between 8 and 12, and every time I have Scott try to do something different, he goes, I just want to do 8 to 12. That's where I'm strongest, where I get the most pump, But here Scott he's stuck. He's stuck at, I'm going to say 135. Well, first thing is I'm going to get annoyed with Scott because he works out all the time and he understands how hard it is to get strong. So number one thing is your routine because you like it. And at one point it was hard. It was challenging, and that's probably why you liked it. Well, now it's not challenging. Now you're stuck at this weight and you can't increase. So if you're doing 4 sets of 10 with 135 and you can't go past it, that's a problem. This, I do best at 8 to 12. No, you're more comfortable in reps of 8 to 12. So number one thing with getting through a plateau is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's a saying as old as time. I don't know who said it, but get out of that rep range. There's advice piece number one for breaking through a plateau. Change up the reps, change up your rest, change up the weight. Don't be scared to go a little bit lower and go for 20 reps. Now, when it comes to higher reps, I don't know if all you have a friend like this or a colleague, something like that. They don't like high reps. They don't get anything out of it. And I will circle back to, well, how much are you putting into it? Are you actually trying to make 20 reps that hard? Are you trying to fail out right at 20 reps? Because if you're not, then you are wasting your time. 20 reps will recruit just as many muscles as 8 to 10, or even 4 to 6, and probably even more muscles actually with the higher reps. But if you're not going to put in the same effort with that, the same intensity, then yeah, of course it's not going to work. 20 reps is for growth, and that's what drives me nuts. Some people that, I don't want to get big, I just want to tone up, I'll do high reps. No. You're saying you don't want to try hard in the gym, is what you're saying. The reps are irrelevant. In fact, if you go hard with 20 reps, you'll put on more size than anything. So if you want to avoid size, 20 reps is the last thing you want to do, right? So that's number one. Switch up your reps. Number two, switch up the type of workouts. What this leads to, this reminds me of a story about strength, of course, right? So how do you quantify strength? Well, some people, I am not one of these people, but a lot of people will say, their 1 rep max goes up, right? If I can bench press 300 pounds one time, that's my strength. I'm a 300-pound bencher. I don't necessarily look at it like that, but I definitely understand people that do. And the reason I don't look at it like that is because I haven't done a 1 rep max probably since I was 23. So 8 years ago? And ultimately, what's the point, right? It's good to know, I guess, and it can help you figure out other reps to do. But you can also do those reps and then have an estimation of what your max is. But one of the things I did when I was 23, this is about 2012 maybe, CrossFit's really taken off, right? And I had never worked out in that. I work out in more of a bodybuilder discipline, but I figured I'd try it before I knocked it. So I did it. It was something like push presses and then, Russian twists with a 45-pound plate, and it was heavy and it was hard, don't get me wrong. In fact, I couldn't believe the weight they recommended was so high. I remember thinking, I'm glad I'm not too far removed from football because it's intense. I remember seeing some of the older guys in there and thinking, geez, I just hope they don't get hurt. I mean, this is tough for me. I can't imagine. And, a lot of them dropped the weight and they were smart about it. But anyway, after this CrossFit workout, after the timed part, they wanted you to max out in bench press. And I remember thinking it was just the craziest thing. Why would I max out in bench press right after? But, glass half full kind of guy I am. I was thinking, man, this is a great way to go about it, though. If you need to break through a plateau, do a completely different style of exercise. You're not going to get weaker from it. That never happens. You may feel like you're not getting closer to your goal, but it's the whole, what's that, one step backwards, take two step forwards type of thing. I believe it wholeheartedly. So that's number 2. Switch up the type of exercise you're doing. If you're a very regimented person like me, where you're doing 3 sets of 10, followed by this X lift, and then Y lift, and then Z lift, switch it up. Do something. The other day, I did single arm snatches with burpees and sprints on the curve. And it's just all in an effort to get better, get stronger, but it's something to make sure you don't plateau. I'm kind of in a plateau preventative mindset lately. But anyway, that's number 2. Number 3, change the order you do your exercises. If you always start off with straight bar bench, start with flies. I love doing that. That's probably the number 1 thing I do. Go with flies. Start with your dips instead of finishing with them. That's what I had Scott do. I had him start with dips, then go flies, then finish on flat bench. And while you're always worried you won't be as strong at the end of the workout, it's not enough to really matter. Your muscles are still tired. They still think you're putting a ton of pressure on them because you are. In fact, it might even feel like more pressure when you're fatigued. The 4th thing I would say is your surfaces. One thing I love doing is get a Swiss ball or a Bosu ball and get unstable. Force your midsection, your core to come in and help you with these lifts. I call it invisible strength. That's what invisible strength is you ever been sitting on a bench and you start to lean back and you lean back too far and you just fight for a little bit. There's nothing to hold on to, but you're just fighting to keep yourself up. It's core strength, but it's invisible strength. That's what I call that. So doing things to make it more unstable is another great thing you can do to break up plateaus. The last thing I would say, and lucky for you guys, there's another story attached to it. And this one, I think a lot of people would have trouble arguing with me on this one. This one's pretty universal. And that is to emphasize your eccentric contraction. Now, what is an eccentric contraction? That is the downward phase of your lifts. That is, we'll use squat as an example, because in the story, it'll make more sense. Once you get the bar off the rack, you start going down. That's the eccentric part of the squat. And what that does, on your way down, the reason to take it so seriously is your muscles are stretching. They're gearing up for a contraction. With that stretch, the muscles, your nerves, are recruiting and exciting more muscle fibers. So it's recruiting all these muscles to help ultimately push the load that's on your back all the way up. The eccentric part is really what generates the muscle growth. It is, and it makes sense, right? If it's recruiting more muscles to lift a weight, that's what you want. I mean, that is getting strong. It's just your body adapting to heavier and heavier loads. So the story I have, the guy that really stumbled upon it is this Russian doctor. Soviet Union used to have this great track and field team. And what this doctor discovered is, all the sprinting and lifting is great, but eccentrically, not a lot was being stressed. So what he had these guys do is get on a 60-inch box and jump down. And as they're jumping down, don't land with straight legs or on your feet. Fall to where when you hit the ground, you're almost at the bottom of a squat. Now, I do this with a lot of baseball guys to help stretch out their hamstrings. Really with any guys, but baseball guys always have tight hamstrings. And what it does is it excites the muscles in the hamstring and the glutes, and it recruits them. Nerves start firing, blood flow gets in there, all that good stuff, And then jump right after they hit the ground. That's the concentric contraction, and that's the strength part of it. So if you are bench pressing, you'll need a partner for it, right? But load the bench press up. Or just go with your regular weight and just do a few more reps, or get to the point where you can't do any more reps. Have your friend help you hold the bar at the top and slowly go down. I do it for 8 seconds when I do it. Just 8 seconds of you pushing against the weight, but letting it fall slowly, letting that chest stretch out and get all those muscle spindles firing. And then after it hits your chest, your friend helps you pick it up and you do a couple more reps. What this will do, number one, you'll be a little more sore because you haven't stressed the downward phase to the extent that you just did. And what it triggers is more muscle growth. Your body, one of the most adaptable things on earth, wants to be able to handle all the heaviest weight. And now that you've showed your body what it needs to handle on the way down, through 8-second negative, I call it. It's going to adapt. You'll be a little tired the next day and all that, and it's great. Now, as far as, Garrett, why don't you do that every time? I think there is kind of a limit, or there's believed to be a limit. You're only going to get so strong. It's more of a tool to help all the other lifts because there's an eccentric contraction in every lift. So you're getting some anyway, but stressing it, doing negatives and things like that are a great way to really get your body re-energized, to break through a plateau. It's tired. Your body does not want to be stagnant. No one's born with a body that just doesn't want to do stressful physical activity. But when it hits a point where it's not improving anymore, you definitely have to go out of your way to make it happen. So that's it, guys. That's pretty much my idea for plateaus, right? Change up the reps, style of workout, the surface, bring in some eccentric contractions, and you'll get it. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's all intensity. And as long as you're intense about it, you're going to be just fine. But if you're stuck on something and you're listening to this, hopefully I gave you some ideas. Maybe it'll help you out. Well, thanks for checking in, guys. I'll see you guys next week. If you got a minute and you downloaded this podcast, please rate it, review it. Even a nice comment would be appreciated in the Apple Podcast Store. Check us out on Instagram. Quick Sessions Podcast is the handle. Try to post something every other day or something like that. But appreciate the support. See you guys next week. Bye.